Tip number one, prep your skin. Make sure that your skin is moisturized. And then I'm very, very oily. So I'm going to use an oil control primer. But prepping your skin, making sure that you have moisturized, and make sure that you have a primer, especially if you're very oily, if you're going to be outside, if it's summertime, you're going to be at an outdoor event, a wedding, something, to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to stay. So important. Without moisturizer, or maybe you need a primer, especially moisturizer if you're dry. Primer if you're very oily or you're going to an event. That is what's going to keep your foundation in place and looking like you want it to look. If you just go in with foundation on your plain skin, you run the risk of it being very patchy, separating, flaking. So first tip, moisturize and primer, especially if you're oily or you're going to be at an event and you need it to look great all day long. Along with tip number one, especially if you're oily like I am, 55 years old, still oily. I always keep on hand while I'm applying my makeup, either toilet paper or paper towel or both. Because especially on the days where I need to hurry up and I need to shower, get ready, get out the door, paper towel, toilet paper, really good for you've applied your moisturizer, you've prepped your skin, you've taken care of your skin, then I might apply a primer and then I'm going to apply my makeup. Maybe it hasn't all kind of soaked in yet and taken a minute to just set up, if you will. I can take just a little paper towel or a toilet paper and just kind of tap it, lightly tap it, so that my skin is not super, super oily. So don't hesitate to keep toilet paper or paper towel on hand just to kind of press that in so that my skin is still plumped, moisturized, primed, but now my makeup isn't going to slide right off. Tip number two is about choosing color. The foundation I'm going to use today is the L'Oreal True Match Nude. My bonus tip is going to be about reading the labels and what to look for. For right now, when you choose a color of foundation, your foundation color should melt into your skin. You want your foundation to look like your skin, but better. The color should blend into your skin. You want your concealer, your under eye concealer. You can watch this video here. You want your concealer to be one shade or a half a shade lighter than your foundation to brighten up your under eyes. But your foundation, you want it to be the same shade as your skin. And the way to test that, if you're in a store and you don't go into the store barefaced, which is ideal, but who does that? You can test the color on your neck, which is not getting as much sun as your face, or test the color on the inside of your arm. The top of your arm getting all of the sun, right? The under part of your arm not getting as much sun as your face. So these are two really great places to test the color when you're shopping for foundation. Alongside choosing the color of your foundation is choosing the coverage. And I really want to encourage you, especially as we're getting older, to look for light to medium coverage. We'll talk more about that in my bonus tip, versus full coverage. Save full coverage for events, but light to medium coverage means that you can build on it. And full coverage can often mean cakey, kind of look like a mask, and it can look like we're trying too hard, and at the end of the day can really just settle into all of the fine lines and can really look harsh. I really want to encourage you there, especially as we're getting older, try to avoid full coverage foundation. If these tips are helpful for your mature skin, if you're over 40, if you're over 50, if you're over 60, and you are enjoying these tips, I really hope that you'll like this video, subscribe, share it with a friend. Be sure to come over and find me on Facebook or Instagram at Just Doing My Best. I would love to have you over there. I'm sharing tips all the time. Okay, let's talk about application. Did you see that I already put my brows on? When you are applying foundation, try not to apply foundation over your brows. It just makes it very difficult. If you do have to color your brows in a little bit, it makes it difficult for that to stick. So I put my brows on, and now I'm going to apply foundation around them. I'm also not going to apply foundation above my eyes or below my eyes. I'm going to save that for color corrector and concealer. What we don't want is we don't want to have moisturizer, primer, foundation, color corrector, concealer, all of that underneath our eyes. That definitely leads to patchy, separating, just blank spaces. It leads to your foundation and your makeup not looking good later on in the day. So one of the things that I always like to leave out of the equation when it comes to makeup around my eyes, I always leave foundation out of that equation. Tip number 3 is about application. I already talked about avoiding applying foundation around your eyes. But the other thing that I want to say is we can no longer, and I know I might get a lot of feedback about this, we can no longer apply foundation with our hands. We need to be very intentional, and a brush, if you prefer a beauty blender, that's fine too. But a brush makes the application so much more intentional. It definitely gives it a little bit more precise application. And the other thing that applying foundation with a brush does, applying foundation with a brush gives you the opportunity to blend and to build. Remember I said that I am avoiding full coverage foundation. I want this to be my skin, but better. So, do you see how I have a sunspot right there? I'm not too concerned about it. I just want this foundation application to be my skin, but better. Don't want it to look like I'm trying to hide every single little thing, because that can be like chasing your tail. I'm just tapping the foundation in. If I want to add a little bit more to my brush and really try to target that a little bit more, I can certainly do that. It would be very difficult if I were using a full coverage foundation. Light to medium coverage and a brush makes it so much easier just to target and maybe spend a little bit more time in areas that need a little bit more attention. Instead of using your hands and moving the product around, tap that foundation in with a brush. You'll be so much more pleased with the way it looks, the way it lays on your face, and the coverage, I promise. Tip number 4 is about blending. The one thing, well, I'm going to say 2 things that I really want you to pay attention to when you're blending. We do not want a line of demarcation between here and here. So I want you to blend that jawline. But the other thing I'm going to do first, because I just put some on my brush, I'm going to put just a little bit right here on the sunspots on my chest, because I don't want a really nice coverage on my face where I'm trying to, just kind of blend in and hide some imperfections and have it be super noticeable between here and here and here and here. That is a dead giveaway of our age. And so if I'm trying to make my foundation application on my face just look pretty and softer, maybe a little bit younger, God willing. Then I also want to hide some of those sunspots that I've gotten on my chest. So a good way to do that is to blend that jawline to make sure you're blending the colors, and then also add just a touch right there on those sunspots so that it's a very cohesive look all the way from here to here. I have an extra bonus for you in just a second, but first I would love to know down in the comments, what's your favorite foundation, and have you changed foundations as you're getting older? Leave me a comment and let me know. One of my bonus tips, I told you I have several bonuses throughout this video, so you might want to save this video for later. One of my bonuses is after foundation and color corrector, I have been putting a light spritz of setting spray on my face and then just pressing it into place, especially around my eyes. That has helped so much with the just overall performance of my foundation and my concealer, and I'm not getting as much separation, especially later on in the day underneath my eye. I'm telling you, game changer. I love this tip so much, especially if you have oily, mature skin like I do. Tip number 5, when it comes to your foundation, ingredients matter. Gone are the days when you had to really invest a lot of money in makeup or skin products to get really good skin-loving, beneficial ingredients. Even under $10, under $15, you can find foundations with things like niacinamide and hyaluronic acid, so definitely look for that. If you can find something with SPF with a sunscreen in it, that might be something you might choose maybe closer to the summertime, especially if you're going to be outside. But absolutely look for skin loving ingredients, and you don't have to spend a ton of money to get them. Let's stay here on number 5 in ingredients and labels for just another minute or two. If you have lines, imperfections, crow's feet, sunspots, you want to avoid things that say on the label that say things like halo, illuminating, radiance. Those are going to be like a giant spotlight, and they're just going to draw more attention to those areas. So stay away from those. When the label says skin tint or serum, think light to medium coverage. That's going to be something you can build up to. You're never going to get, I don't want to say never, you're not immediately going to get full coverage on anything that says serum or skin tint. If you have drier skin, you may want to look on the label for something that says dewy. That's going to be much more moisturizing, much more emollient. So if you have oily skin like I do, that may be something that you might want to avoid. But in the wintertime, who knows, might be worth taking a chance on. I have some bonus thoughts that I want to leave with you. And if you've been enjoying this and you'd like to get more information like this, check out this video on my best tips for concealer. All right, when you get your foundation, like for instance, I love this Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation. This is mattifying, water and sweat proof, and niacinamide in the ingredients. This is definitely a full coverage. So I like this for event makeup, maybe date night, things like that. But if on a regular basis, this might be a little too much for me, one of the things that I can do is I can add this onto my brush with a little bit of moisturizer. And what that'll do is it'll just kind of thin it out a little bit. I'll still get good coverage, but it'll just make it just a little bit thinner, and it'll be more like a medium coverage. So definitely think about that. Also, on the same line as blending and mixing your foundation, also, if you have something that you might, again, maybe you just want to thin it out a little bit, maybe you want to bump up the protection, don't hesitate to add maybe your foundation. So this one is the SPF 40. This is the CC Plus Nude Glow Foundation from IT Cosmetics. This is definitely a light to medium coverage, but maybe I need to bump up the SPF. I can add this onto my brush with a tinted sunscreen. Still get really good coverage, but bump up the sun protection factor for my skin. Mixing your foundation on your brush with a little bit of your moisturizer, also super helpful if you get the wrong color. Maybe this is a little bit dark for you. You could mix this with a little moisturizer on your brush to thin it out a little bit. Also in the middle of winter, I have very oily skin except for about 6 weeks in the middle of winter, and then I'm super dry. So that is also when I take my foundation and I mix it with moisturizer on my brush and apply it that way. I hope all of that was helpful. If it was, if you enjoyed all of these tips, again, I hope that you'll like this video, subscribe, share it with a friend, watch this video next for more tips, and come over and find me on Facebook or Instagram at Just Doing My Best. Go out today and be blessed and do your best, and I will see you in the next video.